Hey everyone, so today I am going to walk you through on how to create your own cryptocurrency. So there are hundreds of cryptocurrencies out there, if not thousands. Um, and a lot of these aren't actually running their own blockchain. They're actually running off of the Ethereum blockchain. And they are what we call ERC20 tokens. So an ERC20 token is a smart contract that runs on the Ethereum blockchain, and they all follow the same interface. Uh, so this means that every ERC20 token has a name, is a symbol, is a number of decimals, which means how many decimal places is it divisible by. So if it had 0 decimals, there's no such thing as half a token. It has a total supply, and it has these 5 methods, and it's finding the balance of an address, being able to transfer the token, being able to transfer from a different address. So that would require, let's say I wanted to give you permission to spend 100 of my tokens. I would need to approve you for that amount of tokens to spend. And an allowance. So once I approved you to, spend 100 of my tokens, you could call this and you would see how many of my tokens you're allowed to spend. They also implement 2 events. It's a transfer and an approval. So anytime this transfer function is called, it should trigger this transfer event, as well as anytime you call this approve function, you should fire an approval event. So how we're going to do this? We're going to use a framework called Truffle, which is a testing framework for Solidity smart contracts. We're going to use the Open Zeppelin library, which already create these smart contracts for us. We just have to put in the custom features that we want, like the name of our token, and anything like that. And we're going to be using a NPM package called Truffle HD Wallet Provider. So that's creating our smart contract. When we go to deploy the smart contract, we need an Ethereum node, and for that we're using Infura. And we will give our smart contract gas, and this gas will deploy the contract onto the Ethereum network. Once it's on the network, we'll be able to view our wallet, and we'll see that our tokens are indeed created, and we'll be able to send our tokens anywhere. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is you need to create a Truffle project. So you'll do a Truffle init. I've already done this for my contracts, so I'm going to get an error. Next thing you'll need to do is an npm init. I already did that. You'll need to install Open Zeppelin. So you'll do an npm install Open Zeppelin /Solidity. Do that. I already did that, so I'm just going to cancel. You'll need to do an npm install Truffle HD Wallet Provider. And I'm going to do --save, which saves it as one of our local dependencies in our project. I should have done that with Open Zeppelin too. So I'm not going to wait for this either. I already did that. So cool. Now we have everything we need to deploy our smart contract. First thing is to go to truffle.js. This file will show up after you do a Truffle init. And you really just want to copy and paste this code. You'll need your own mnemonic seed. Feel free to use this one. This is just an Ethereum account with test ether, in it for the Robson network. So this is the wallet I'm going to use. When we configure our network, we're going to use the Robson network. In this provider is where we're going to use the HD wallet. You pass in the mnemonic seed as well as your Infura API key. And this is the Ethereum node that is going to broadcast our transaction to the network. I'll talk a little bit about gas later. So after we have our truffle.js configured, let's go ahead and create our ICO contract, or our cryptocurrency contract, not necessarily an ICO. So you want to specify the version of Solidity, and then you want to import this standard token.sol from Open Zeppelin library. And what this standard token.sol has done for us is it's implemented all of the necessary ERC20 methods for us. So it's already implemented balance of, transfer, transfer from, approve, allowance. So it's done all the heavy lifting for us. All we have to do is give it a name, we have to give it a symbol, and we have to specify the number of decimals. So I am going to say 0 decimals, just to be easy, so it's not divisible by anything. Let's say, okay, so here in the constructor, this is the code that runs when it's deployed. We're going to say the owner of the token is me, the message.sender, and we're going to give an initial supply of 100, and we're actually going to increase my balance by 100 and set the total supply to 100. So this is important not to do any funky things. Let's say maybe I gave myself a supply +1, then it'll probably still work, but your total supply will always be off, and that's not very good for a currency not to know its total supply. One thing to note, let's say maybe we wanted to do 18 decimals like Ethereum is. You'll have to add 18 zeros to this. This is the supply in the smallest unit. So let's say we kept this at 100, the total supply would be 1 times 10 to the -16th of a token. That'd be the total supply. So if we wanted actually to have 100 true tokens that with 18 decimals, we'd need to add 18 zeros to this number. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to stick with 0 decimals. So now that we've written our ICO contract, we need to create a migration. And this is very simple code. You can kind of just copy and paste from the migration that you already have in your project. And since there's no parameters in this, we can just deploy it this way. So now we have our migration. And in our little process, we're right here. We've already wrote our smart contract, and now we're ready to deploy it. So we need to first make sure we have test ether in our address that we're going to deploy with, and I do. So now we can do this with a truffle migrate set, specify the network, and this will deploy the contract to the Robson network for us. So let me talk a little bit about gas while we're waiting for the contract to be deployed. So gas is basically the payment to the miners for executing your smart contract code. And the way gas is determined are the certain opcodes called by your contract. So let's say you had really complicated logic in your smart contract, then it's going to cost more gas to deploy. So this contract is going to take about 0.14 ETH, 147 I believe ETH, to deploy to the network. So I gave it 0.15 gas to deploy, just so we don't get an out of gas error. Now, gas is actually independent of the number of ETH. It really depends on the gas price that you set. So by default, Truffle has a gas price of 1 GUI. So we can look at this Robson transaction. So now, right now, we're waiting for our migration contract to be mined. But see, our gas limit is, that's 1.5 million. And the cost per units of gas, and each unit costs 100 GUI, which is a unit of Ethereum. So the max transaction cost for this would be 0.15 ETH. So it looks like this has just been included in a block. So now we are actually deploying our ICO token. And look, it just got deployed. We can check it out on Etherscan by searching the transaction hash. So this is our token contract. Cool. So right now we copy. So this is our token address. And let's say you don't have this output. This is actually written into your build folder under contracts. Go to your token. And inside this JSON, when it says saving artifacts, it's actually writing metadata based on your contract migration. It's a great feature of Truffle. So here we can look up the network ID. See, we give it a network ID of 3. So let's go back to the JSON. Network 3. So the address right here is going to match the address right here that our output told us is deployed at. So copy this address, and so now we deployed a contract to the Ethereum network, and now let's view and send some of our tokens. And to do this, I'm going to use my crypto wallet, or mycrypto.com, and using their desktop wallet. So here's what the wallet looks like. Let's add a custom token. You pass in the address, and right here we have 100 MIC tokens, my ICO. So let's just send some of these tokens. Let's give it to a random address. So I don't know, I'm just going to pick a random address. I'm going to send the transaction. Check it out on Etherscan. Cool, so we just transferred 50 tokens from our wallet to this random wallet. So this is a kind of cool chart. This is where you can go. You go to the token page, robson.etherscan/token, and put your token address. You can actually see a pie graph. Whoops, no you can't. Well, anyway, you can see the holders of MIC token, and you can see that I have half, and this random address also has half. So yeah, that's it for the video. Um,